The Mac Studio changed my life in 3 months. Yep, you heard that right. Let me explain. Over the last year or so, PC and tech in general has been a bit stagnant. And on top of that, our channel feels pretty dead. And no matter what we've tried to do to pull the channel out of this hole by trying different things and trying to pivot our content, nothing seems to have worked. Imagine devoting your life to something for 6 years, all for it to feel like it's crumbling away right before your eyes. It looks like it's glamorous to make YouTube videos for a job, but there are a lot of stresses that go with making YouTube a career. If you've been watching for a while, you've probably noticed that there's gray hairs popping up all over my facial hair. It's volatile, and sometimes it just feels like I should quit and go back to working a normal job. That was until Apple reached out and asked if we wanted to check out their new M2 Max Mac Studio. I know this sounds a little bit ridiculous, but it's true. Let's rewind a bit so this makes a bit more sense. Now, I'm not sure how far back I should go, but let's start with how I got into tech. I'm gonna skip lots of life stuff in the middle, but yeah, I loved pulling stuff apart as a kid, and it drove my parents crazy. That was until I figured out how to put them back together and make them better. I built my own PCs from a very young age. I'm talking like 8 years old. And this was back in the 486 days, but at the same time, I had an Amiga 500. And this was the coolest thing ever. This wasn't a family computer. This was my computer. My cousin Carl, who is much older than me, gave me lots of games and programs. And not only did I love tinkering with computers, I wanted to know how they worked and what I could do with them. I come from a very musical family as well, so I wanted to know how to make music on computers. Fun fact, my brother Gerard he's a literal musical genius. It's insane how good he is. This kind of started my love for making music at a very young age. I played with trackers like Pro Tracker and Octamed, but mainly I did that to kind of understand how making music on computers worked. Before all this YouTube stuff, I worked in IT. I worked in data centers, building really cool stuff that I can't talk about. I worked in large-scale wireless network deployment. I worked in project management. I worked as a software developer. I had lots of side projects contributing to big projects like FreeNAS. I worked for the government, you name it. I've dipped my fingers in it in IT as an IT professional. There was this one morning in 2015, it was like 4 months after Claire and I got married, where I walked into where I was contracting at the time doing deployments, and I asked myself, what the fuck am I doing here? I walked out and I never looked back. The 2 years following, Claire and I worked together on a company she was running, and I kind of just fell into making videos about things. Nothing in particular though, just things. I love cameras, and I started to make videos about cameras. I've always had a love for cameras, which is kind of like the reason why our B-roll and everything looks the way it does. I just love filming stuff. Back in 2017, I was working on YouTube stuff and helping other people grow their channels by filming and editing for them, all while building PCs for people to use for editing and streaming. And also, as usual, like I've done my whole life, tinkering with my own PC stuff. That same year, I attended VidCon Australia in Melbourne, and I said to one of my other YouTube friends, I'm like, dude, all this stuff I'm doing now, I'm gonna burn it all down and I'm gonna start a tech channel. Are you in? Obviously he wasn't, but Claire was. On the 30th of September 2017, Gear Seekers was born. I didn't upload till around January 2018, but I created the channel in 2017. One of the things I wanted to do differently with the channel was make all of the music on the channel. I had no idea how hard this was going to be in the long run. I'd released lots of mediocre music over the years, but scoring an entire YouTube channel about tech, that was a pretty crazy idea. As the years went on and we continued to make videos on the channel, finding time to make music was getting harder. I had zero inspiration, and every time I sat down to start making music, I'd get distracted by something, or something would come up that I had to attend to, but mainly I was feeling creatively burnt out. Burnt out from making videos that no one was watching anymore, and videos that I would pour my heart and soul into. This video is probably going to be the same as that as well, let's be honest. Even though it breaks my heart, and sometimes even the wrong comment after spending literal days on a video rubbed me the wrong way, I still love making YouTube videos, guys. That's why I'm still here. Which Brings us to 2023. I can sit here and talk about all the specs of my M2 Max Mac Studio with 96 gigs of unified memory and 4 terabytes of storage, but the fact is, this Mac Studio means more to me than just being a computer. People will get so hung up on performance and numbers and what a computer can do in theory, but forget that sometimes a computer can be a tool that unlocks something inside you. This is a true story. Now, Apple asked me if I wanted this Mac Studio for a review, and of course I said yes. Like, that's the whole point of this video. I plugged it in and I started using it and quickly realized that all of the things that I didn't like about Macs simply didn't matter anymore, because for the first time in a long time, the computer just worked. The Mac Studio did everything I asked it to. Any task I threw at it, it just did it. I started editing Gear Seekers videos on it, it did it. That feeling of using a computer without any issues or having to think about the hardware and just turning it on was kind of liberating. I'm not gonna lie. Now, I've talked about this quite a bit on the channel, but if you're new here, I make all the music in FL Studio, so obviously I wanted to try that out on the Mac Studio, and something happened. The M2 Max Mac Studio was so good at doing the things I wanted to in FL Studio that I felt like that barrier that I felt with creativity was gone. I didn't feel uninspired anymore. My years-long musical writer's block was gone, all because of a computer. How is this possible? How could a computer do that? It's simple. The M2 Max Mac Studio was the right tool at the right time. It was a tool that helped me tear down mental barriers and emotional blocks that I'd formed by associating music and making videos with being a stressful process, which it's really not. This kind of leads me into what's happening with the channel that I haven't really talked about as well. If you've been here for a while, you would have noticed that over that last year or so, our upload schedule has been reduced quite a lot. We used to upload basically every single day. This is because of a combination of a few things. Firstly, no one wants to talk about this, but we're in the worst timeline ever. We're in a tech apocalypse. A lot of the tech content creators you love have stopped uploading as much because there just isn't anything to get excited about anymore. Simple as that. Even the biggest channels aren't uploading as much anymore. We upload less because there's just less to talk about. We get less views because there's nothing to talk about, and people just aren't interested in tech that they can't buy. We're at the mercy of this YouTube algorithm robot. How am I supposed to be excited about tech when all I see is a downward spiral of views and engagement? I constantly look at numbers every single day and nothing's getting better no matter what I do. And you get to a point where you just don't care anymore and you make peace with it and the numbers just don't matter. You also don't want to make videos anymore and you forget what you loved about creating and you associate that feeling of creating with anxiety, fear, and dread. It's a complex and complicated mix of emotions, but ultimately, that's how it feels to be a content creator sometimes. 3 months ago, this is exactly where my head was at. I just didn't care anymore. The love for creating content was gone. I was very close to throwing it all away and saying what I said to my friend in 2017 at VidCon, burn it all down. Now, I know this all sounds so ridiculous, but again, this is what happened 3 months ago. That's exactly where my head was at. And then when Apple sent over the M2 Max Mac Studio, somehow I felt like I had purpose again. It's really hard to explain. It's crazy how your brain works. How was it that someone like me, who is staunchly a PC user, how did it just so happen that I got inspired by using a Mac? I guess that old Apple slogan of think different applies here. Now, I took a bit of time off from YouTube while we still uploaded a few times a week, just because I was working on music and I was so inspired to create music again that that's all I felt like I wanted to do. The fire was back and then I broke my rib, which actually turned out to be the best thing to happen. I wasn't distracted by things because I couldn't do as much, so I dived into making more videos again and I got super duper inspired to create because I knew the Mac Studio had my back. It's just the cornerstone of everything I'm doing at the moment. Now, we're almost back to daily uploads, and I'm loving the challenge of making videos again. Yeah, the views are shit, but I don't care. I'm creating, and for me, that's the most important part, and I'm at peace with all those numbers and stuff now. I just don't care. Honestly, this computer feels like a friend I didn't know that I needed at the time. I've had people come over and I've introduced them to my Mac Studio and shown them what I've been up to with all the music. I'm not making this up though. Like this is true. Like I'm like, hey, check out my Mac Studio. I've been making all this music, blah, blah. Anyway, I started writing this as a review of the M2 Max Mac Studio, but when I sat down and really thought about it, a review of this computer didn't make sense because of how it made me feel. I guess it turned out not to be a review at all. This is just a story of how a computer helped me unlock my potential when I least expected it, when I was feeling the most down. And to be fair, this is a bit of an expensive way to go about this, but luckily I'm fortunate enough to have the opportunity to do this YouTube thing as a job. So thanks Apple for unknowingly helping me in a time when I didn't know I needed help. I didn't know a computer would turn everything around for me. It's kind of funny considering that this is a tech channel about computers. Now, I know people are going to think this video is ridiculous, and I agree with you. It's insane. It doesn't make sense to me either. But the fact remains that the Mac Studio has changed my life in 3 months, and it changed it for the better. I never thought computers could do this, but then I remember, because of my curiosity with computers as a child, it got me into computers in the first place. So I guess the computers have always changed my life at different times of my life, but the Mac Studio was the first time that I consciously noticed it happening. I'm your boy Nick with Gear Seekers. You peak, we seek. Thanks for watching.
I can honestly say that I thought that I was done with this music shit, but life has other plans. I put my left foot first, and with my right foot I tripped and decided to just roll with it. As I sat down to write all these words, it started to flow from my dome like a tap unclogged. The mental block was gone, and before long I had a stack of new songs. Yo, but what was wrong with me? 10 years to break down these walls. What was in my way all this time? I'd said everything I needed to. My story was told. I was getting too old, but I guess that I was wrong. The universe had a plan for me. I wasn't ready to concede, with a single task left showing me not to quit, to get back up, to get off the ground, to load up the sounds and fucking kill shit.